for our start, we're going to begin. We're going to learn, number one, just how to take the cover off. It's easier than you might think. With your calculator sitting on the table, it has rubber feet that will hold it in place. Just put your hand on the lid and slide the lid towards you. You may have to press down a little bit, but it will slide right off. Now, here's the important thing. Now you get to pick your calculator up and slide the cover on the back. It will slide on from the bottom. You want to get it in. I'm going to let you practice this for just a minute. Tricky. That looks good. Do you know why we do that? So you don't have lost covers. It's not going to get shoved off your desk, and that way when it's time to quit, you'll know exactly where your cover is. It's just a good habit to take the cover off and slide it on the back. Okay. When you look at the calculator, a general orientation to it, and if you just kind of run your hand along it from the top, a little bit up above the middle is a rectangular, flat, part. Feels like glass. Probably is some kind of glass. All right, yes, that little rectangle. That is the screen. And when your math teacher comes along and wants to see how your work is progressing, that's what they're going to want to see. Because, you know, the screen is there for folks who can see it, and it shows all of the work that you have been doing. Now, if you start from the screen and move your hand down the calculator, every single thing you're touching from the screen down is a standard TI-84 Plus calculator. It's the same calculator that your classmates are going to be using, and the beauty of that is if you need any help, your math teacher can help you with that part. Now, if you go back to the screen and feel what's up above it, there's just a little short part. It's maybe about 2 inches tall. That part, I'm going to call that the Orion unit. And that's because it's the part that's been added to the TI-84 to make it talk and to make it play sounds for us. So that's the accommodation part. That's the part that your classmates don't have, but from the screen and everything below it, your calculator is just like theirs. All right? So I'm going to try to remember to talk about the Orion unit and then just the TI or Texas Instruments calculator part, and that's going to be down at the bottom. Let's check out something else. Put your hand back where the screen is, and immediately below it, like not even a quarter of an inch, there's a row of thin little bitty buttons. There's 5 of them. We're really not going to work on those today, but those are graphing buttons, and they will become very important to you very shortly. But today we're not going to be doing graphing. So I want you to know that these are there and that they relate to graphing, okay? So now let's go below the graphing keys. Everything below that is what we are going to be looking at. The rest of this is your, I would almost say your basic scientific calculator, except it does have a lot more useful features. If you kind of look at it analytically, you might be able to say that there are 5 columns of keys, and they're kind of arranged in 9 rows, but the rows are not perfectly horizontal. They get a little bit off, okay? Now, in order for me to have a way to tell you where a button is when we start talking about it, I'm going to be saying things like, well, it's in the left column or it's in the first column, and I may be able to tell you which row it's in, but sometimes the rows are a little hard to count because they're not completely straight. If you start in the very top row, and this is the first row underneath the graphing buttons themselves, you'll see that the row is very short. It only has 3 buttons in it. And then what is that little cluster over on the right-hand side? All right. You see a series of, I would say it's 4 buttons arranged almost like petals on a flower, except that the top and the bottom one are actually joined together in the middle. These are navigation keys, and they're navigation for moving the cursor of the calculator. And they work exactly like the arrow keys on a computer. The one that's kind of going vertically up moves your cursor up. The one that's going down moves your cursor down. And then you have a left and you have a right. So that's going to be easy to understand. All right. Now we come to the fun part. Okay. One thing that everybody figures out very, very quickly is how do we turn it on? All right, that's easy. The on button is in the very leftmost column. It's down at the very, very bottom. And if you can see it, it actually says on. So go ahead and push it on.
Press the second
And the calculator is talking to you. That's a good sound because sometimes the calculator stops talking and that's not good. So at least we heard everybody's calculator say something. I don't know if we understood it, but we heard it. So on is easy to find, right? If I said the on button is in the bottom left corner, would you know what I meant by that? It's kind of in a corner, right? The corner of the keys. It's all the way on the left and all the way at the bottom. So it's kind of on a corner of the keyboard. Turning it off is not quite so simple. I've had people tell me that they were able to turn the calculator on, but they couldn't figure out how to turn it off. Now, aside from the fact that it will turn itself off after a while, if you will slide your finger up that column to the very top key in that column, not the graphing keys, all right, I'm going to talk about something very complicated. Here's our second key on this calculator, and it's already complicated. There are so many functions that this calculator can do. They can't give every one of them its own key. If they did, you would have to have 3 times as many keys. And the keys, or the buttons, would have to be tiny, or the calculator would have to be a lot bigger. They didn't want to do that. So their method is every key does more than one thing. Another way to say that is every key has more than one function. The first function is just what it says. Like the first function of the on key is to turn the calculator on. That's not a surprise. But that very same button has a second function, and that's to turn it off. But the only way you can let the calculator know that I want to turn it off is this top key in the left-hand column is the second function key. And if you press that and then any other key on the keyboard, what you're going to tell the calculator you want is not the first function of this key, I want its second one. All right? So the way that works, to turn it off, if you will press that top key, the one that I'm going to call second function, and then go all the way back down to the corner at the bottom and press on, we get the doo-doo-doo, and it's off. Okay? On and off. You may not feel like that's a lot, but it's something. All right, second function key. The second function key is also a corner key. There's a reason for that. It's to make them easy to find. So on is down at the bottom corner on the left. Second function is the very top of the column, also on the left. Let's turn it back on again. All right, we heard that in more than stereo. Was anyone able to hear that message? What did the calculator say?
It was telling us that it was on, and that it was telling us that it was on the home screen.
Okay, it did. It's on. It mentioned home screen. Do you know what else it said? Part of what it said a lot. If you like, you can turn it off and back on again. It's telling you press key 3 times to enter help mode. Help mode, that sounds good. I like help. Help mode, simply when you enter help mode, it means you can push buttons on the calculator all day. And the key, the calculator will announce the name of the key, but it will not do anything with it. If you have an equation halfway entered and you have to find the squared key, you can go up here and push this second function button 1, 2, 3 times, and you'd be in help mode. And then you could push keys all over your calculator, and it will not mess up the equation that you're halfway through. It will just name them. So for instance, let me try it. Okay, help on. And I'm just going to push some buttons.
So it's the very top key to the left?
Yes, the very top one. You press it 3 times. Looky there, I found the square key. All right, go ahead, do that. Press your second function button 3 times fairly quickly. It's also telling you press this key 3 times to exit help mode. All right, does everybody have help mode on?
Yes.
Okay, just press a few keys. In fact, I would say let's go straight down that first column and let's see if you can find x squared. Oh, whoops.
Nice.
Okay. All right. Did anybody find x squared?
Nope.
Have you got it, Todd? X to the power of 2, I think is what they call it. There you go. Okay. Now just go down and try it again. You can find it. It's in there. Wait on that.
Ah.
That's it. The language for it is not x squared, but x to the power of 2.
It
Did
should
you
say
find it?
X squared.
Okay. So let's make sure you're in help mode. Yeah, you were. Okay. So if you just go straight down that column and listen really hard, you'll find it. You've got it. All right. And it's not that I expect you to remember that. The important thing is if you were halfway through an equation and you needed the square key and you couldn't remember where it was, you could find it. Then go back to the second function key, press it 3 times, and you'll hear help off. Okay. Now you could go back to your equation now that you know where the x squared key is. That's what the help function, help mode is for. And that can be really useful, especially if you're halfway through a problem and you don't want to have to start all over at the beginning. Go into help mode, find the key that you need, get out of help mode, go back and finish your problem. All right? Okay, very good. Now, next. You can't do much on a calculator if you don't know where the numbers are. And finding the numbers is pretty easy on this calculator because they don't feel like the other buttons. If you will slide your hand down to the bottom row, it's kind of funny. If you really are exploring this tactually for the first time, you'll notice that on the very bottom row, yeah, there are 5 keys as you move your hand across, but they are not lined up evenly. 3 of them, yes, 3 of them kind of stick out lower than the others. Those are the bottom 3 buttons for your numpad, borrowing a term from the computer. Though, can you find the 3? And the number pad keys feel different because they curve down. Would that be concave, I think? So your finger actually fits into them, whereas the other keys we've been pressing sort of have a smoother surface. They poke up a little bit, so the number keys are easy to find. All right, on the very bottom row, the very leftmost number is 0. Check it out.
0.
There is 0. Okay. We've got 0. 0 is the first one. There's not a lot I can say about that. If you will go up 1 row, you're going to come to the row that includes 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 1.
Go ahead, you can do it.
1, 2, enter.
Okay, we found an enter key. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. If you go up 1 more row, you should find what?
4, 5, 6.
I would expect 4, 5, 6. And if you go up 1 more row?
7, 8, 9.
Okay, we come to 7, 8, 9. Now, it's occurred to me that we may be entering some really enormous numbers on our calculator. You know what I would like for us to do? Let's go into help mode to do this. If you're in help mode, stay there. If I got you to get out of it, go back into it. So now when we enter all these numbers and then do like plus, minus, times, and divide, we won't be making our poor calculators crazy because they can't do what we're asking. All right. I just want, let's practice finding some numbers, all right? 5 is the center number, really, if you just kind of ignore the bottom. The odd numbers are all at the corners from 5. So if you go from 5 down and to the left, you come to 1. So we do 5, 1.
5, 1, 5, 1.
Good.
5, 1.
If you go to the other bottom corner, we have 5, 3.
5, 3. 5, 3.
All right, we don't have to do 5, 5, but if we go up to the next odd, it's going to be 5, 7.
5, 7.
And then, I love this stereo, it's kind of cool. And then 5, 9, let's do that one.
5, 9.
Ooh, good, all right. So your odd numbers are in your corners. That leaves even numbers to be along the sides. So from 5, can you do 5, 2?
5, 5.
Good, 5, 2. How about 5-4?
5-4.
Ooh, you're good. 5-6?
5-6.
Okay, 5-8?
5-8.
Who remembers where 0 is?
5-0.
Good. All right, very good. 0 is not really in that little square. You have to go farther down. All right. We needed a decimal early today. With your finger on the 0, move 1 key toward the right, and there it is. Decimal point symbol. That's pretty talkative, isn't it? They say a lot. That is where your decimal is. So show me how to enter the number 1.5. So we want 1, and then the decimal, and then the 5. Good. 1. And by the way, we're still hearing decimal point symbol because we're in help. It won't normally say all of that, but remember, it's just identifying the keys for us. How about 7.5? You're doing really well, you know these. Okay. Then one more thing to point out, the last key, the one in the num pad that we have not looked at, it's the third one on the bottom row. This is your negative key. So it will make a positive number negative. Have you used the TI-86X? That was the older scientific calculator.
Yes.
On that calculator, to make a positive number, 25, to turn it into negative 25, you had to enter the number and then press this button. Well, if you're not familiar with this calculator, good, you won't have to learn a new way. You're going to use this negative key in exactly the same order that you would write the problem on your paper. So if we're going to enter negative 25, you press the negative first, and then you do 2, 5, and you will have your negative 25. Okay? All right, we're going to be practicing these. Y'all are you're just too fast. Show me how to enter negative 65. Just press the keys. Oh, that's all right. How about negative 85? I need to give you harder numbers. Y'all are too good at this. All right. Now, one or two more keys. We now have our numbers. We have the decimal. We know how to make them negative. Let's find out how we actually do a math problem. Go to the right-hand column, and again, go down to the very bottom. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. Okay, the very bottom key is called enter, but you can think of it as equals.
Enter.
Okay, so when you've done a calculation and you're ready for the calculator to tell you the answer, you push enter, and that's
Does
the
it
same thing
actually
as
feel
equals.
like an equals? Does it look like an equals on here?
It actually has the word enter written on it.
Oh.
Little teeny tiny
That's
white
so
letters. It
cool.
says enter. An equal sign would have done it, but they chose to put the word enter. All right, but it means equals. Okay, now operations. Sometimes we have a hard time remembering what order they're in. I like to think of it like this. They've put the operations on this calculator in the same order you learned them in elementary school. You know how in kindergarten they start you off with 1 plus 1? All right, addition is the first operation you come to. If you start from the enter key and go up, the very first button is the plus. Press it. Plus symbol. All right. If you go up to the next one, it's going to be what you learned after you learned to add. You learned how to subtract. So we have the minus symbol. Then they made you multiply, and you thought that was hard. And then somewhere around the 4th grade, they hit you with division.
What?
What? Okay. Let's let Tracy press that key and nobody else.
Division symbol with dots above and below a dash.
Division symbol with dots above and below dash. First of all, the thing I should have mentioned when we were on enter is this is another corner key. The corner keys, they're kind of special spots. So we've got turn it on, we've got second function to turn it off. On the right-hand side down in the bottom is our equals key. You're going to use that for every problem you do. So they made that one easy to find. If you go up that right-handed column, they kind of messed my little pattern up because they put the navigation keys here. And remember, it's up, down, left, and right. But if you go right under those navigation keys and find the top regular button immediately underneath navigation, which one? That's it. Good. Everybody's got their finger on it. That's the clear key. We're not going to need that, are we?
Never.
Never ever.
Never.
We're never going to want to erase anything that we have written. All right, that is the clear key, and that is really for when you just feel like you have really messed up. You don't want to just fix one digit, you want that whole thing gone. If you press it one time, in some situations it will only erase one number or one line. If you press it twice, it generally clears the entire screen.
When I pressed it, it cleared the whole equation.
That's not surprising. Okay, so it got that whole line, and if you have a number of equations, then it will take them all out. All right, clear. It should be a corner key, but it's not. Now later I'm going to show you how to just delete or insert a single digit. In other words, you don't always want to erase your entire equation, but for right now we'll just use the clear key because we're not going to be doing anything so hard that we have to retain some of it. Okay, so the four corner keys are turn it on, the second function key, which you use for many things, including turn it off, the equals, and clear. 30 seconds to APD. When you hear that, just push your on button, all right? That was an introduction to the basic part of the keyboard. Okay. Good starting point, all right? Now, I don't know if you want to record this or not, but we're going to practice. We're going to do a few little problems.
Yeah.
Okay, and you do. She does.
Of
All
course
right.
you do.
Of course I do.
Yes.
Me on TV.
So, all right, so we're going to try using these basic keys. This is really the basic stuff for using a calculator. Let's try it with some problems.
Can
All
I turn
right.
the help mode off?
Oh, yes, thank you. We do need to exit help mode.
Pressing second to
I'm
help.
glad you remember that because I forgot. All right.
Like
We
you
would never
nothing.
get an answer. All right. So our first problem is going to be addition. Stop and think for a minute so you know how to find the addition key.
Wait, do we need to clear because we were tapping numbers before we...
Press the clear twice.
That's
There
what
you go.
I did.
And it will just clear your whole entire screen, and then you don't have to worry about that.